Well, this week in our Red, White, and You series celebrating America's 250th, we introduce you to someone who helped keep a community gem alive. This year also marks 100 years of Route 66, and one of its iconic stops is in Miami, Oklahoma. Thanks to a group of dedicated volunteers, the Coleman Theater has stood the test of time as both a piece of local history and a tourist destination along Route 66. 5 News anchor Morgan Wrigley shows us how they are preserving the magic of that theater.
In the northeast corner of Oklahoma, right on Route 66, the Coleman Theater is Miami's not-so-hidden gem, drawing visitors from across the country.
Texas,
Illinois,
Florida, Kentucky,
Massachusetts, Wisconsin.
Longtime Miami local and managing director Danny Dillon has watched the theater evolve through the years.
It was in someone's foresight to think, what do we have left in Miami? What could be an attraction? What is here that other towns don't have? Well, obviously, we knew the Coleman, and we saw its potential to boost the economy of Miami, draw people in.
Today, walking through its doors feels like stepping back to opening night in 1929.
It was the only air-conditioned building in the county.
That night, 1,600 people packed the theater, paying $1 each for a sold-out show.
Now, that was vaudeville. Vaudeville was really kind of dying out when we opened in 29, so it didn't have such a long life.
The theater was built in less than a year by prominent businessman George L. Coleman Sr., who saw entertainment as part of building a community.
He knew that those touring vaudeville shows could come because of Route 66. They all had access to get here.
It transitioned from a vaudeville theater to a movie house, but by the 60s and 70s, its original grandeur had faded.
It was very, very worn out. And people had grown up here for probably a generation or two that only thought of it as a movie theater. So all they would see was from the front door, in here and out, and did not have any comprehension of the space that the dressing room areas, the 5-story fly system that's there.
But some Miami residents saw its value. By the late 80s and gaining momentum in the early 2000s, a community movement to save the Coleman took off.
People were very passionate.
Volunteers restored the theater piece by piece, studying old photos, rebuilding the details, and tracking down the original fixtures, including the massive frame of the chandelier, found stored in a barn at the Coleman house.
And most of us had never seen it in our lifetime.
And farther from home, the theater's original 1928 Wurlitzer pipe organ.
Every silent movie uses this one somewhere. It got sold off, and they looked for 10 years trying to find it.
Found in Texas, the organ was brought home to be the voice of the Coleman once again.
We're like, oh my word. Now we know why they call it the Coleman Theater Beautiful. We'd never known that in our lifetime.
Today, the Coleman hosts vaudeville shows, silent films, and live organ performances as it was intended. And as Route 66 celebrates its centennial year, more visitors than ever are walking through these doors. But Dillon says the future depends on the next generation keeping its story alive.
It would be difficult to see the 200th celebration of the Coleman if the people aren't behind it. They say it's kind of a sickness that they refer to as Coleman fever. And once you get involved here, it just becomes more and more a part of who you are.